Picture this. You're fresh out of college, covered in paint, running your own business, and somehow pulling in six figures while working just 5 to 10 hours a week. Most people would stop there, but not Eric. While building a wildly successful painting company, Eric couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant to do something more, something bigger. In 2012, he launched Painting Business Pro, a program that's now helped thousands of painting contractors build businesses that are not just profitable, but purposeful. Fast forward to today, Eric is the co-founder of National Painting Group, runs one of the most respected coaching programs in the trades, and is on a mission to help entrepreneurs create freedom through systems, marketing, value-based leadership. I'm Ryan Atkinson, and you're listening to the Upflip Podcast, where we uncover the secrets of building and running successful businesses. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Eric to the show to talk about how to start your own painting company, tips that he has learned through the years. So, Eric, thank you so much for being here. So excited to have you.
Yeah, same, man. Thanks for having me on.
Let's go all the way back to Eric in college, which is always just a fun time to go back to. But how did you first get into painting, and what made you stick with it after graduation?
2004, I got recruited for an internship with College Works Painting. So I ran my own painting branch over the spring and summer. I knocked doors, sold paint jobs, hired painters, managed the job sites, made a profit. And then the next 5 years, I coached and mentored other college students. So I would do the recruiting in the fall, and then I would train and run the teams and mentor kids in the spring and through the summer. And I did that for 5 years. I was a district manager, general manager, and then I was a co-VP, and I launched a new business model with the company my last year in college. So did the 6-year plan, got a degree in economics and business, and worked my tail off while I was in college.
Yeah, well, let's talk about starting your own company then. I mean, how did you want to venture off of this? Tell us about that story as well. Kind of lay the foundation, because we're going to really dive into actual advice for listeners here.
Yeah, basically, I got out of school and I didn't want to get a real job, and I knew how to run a painting business really well. So I launched a painting business so I could make $50,000 to $70,000 a year super on the side while I pursued other things. And so from 2010, 11, 12, and even in 13, I was pretty much avoiding the painting business, but it was just doubling every year. It was making me all my money. I was spending 5 to 10 hours a week on it. And it was in 2013 that I just got resolved. Why am I chasing shiny objects in other businesses? I have a huge opportunity here. Painting industry is huge. The competition is not great. Nobody wants to be in this industry, including me. I saw people who were doing really well flooding out of it, and just decided to really lean into scaling, my painting company and just being in this industry.
Eric, though, I got to ask, you graduated with an economics degree and you're painting, why? I know you wanted to avoid it, but how did you just always come back to painting? Because obviously, if you have an economics, you could be going on Wall Street. You could be doing kind of whatever you want with an economics degree. Talk to us about that.
Really, it was all sort of by accident. I literally started the business with no plans, and then it doubled. And, by 2013, I was working 5 or 10 hours a week, making $110,000 a year, traveling 75 days a year, golfing almost every day of the week. I had a really good lifestyle. So I just decided to lean into it more. And then it grew, and then it grew, and then it grew. And the more we've just been in it, the bigger opportunities we keep seeing. And we're like, hey, maybe we could do that. Let's go do that. And we do it. And then we're like, maybe we could do that. Maybe we could do that. And it's just the vision has expanded and grown so much over the years that in a lot of ways it was accidental. I also found along the way, starting some other companies, that business always kind of turns into the same thing. You're building a product or service and trying to make that really, really good for customers. If you're building a big company, you're always going to end up building teams and leading people. It doesn't matter the business you're in, really. Business ends up being solving problems, leading people, developing culture, developing leaders. And I just decided to stick with doing that in this industry that I already had a lot of background in.
Nice. I love that. That's a really nice breakdown of that philosophy right there. So let's talk about starting that business then. Talk to us about how you're landing your first customers and what you know now. What would you advise people if they're starting a painting business on how to land their first few customers?
Basically, from 2010 until 2020, we generated all of our customers from 2 forms of marketing. And that was door-to-door marketing. And then it was all the organic stuff, SEO, referrals, repeat customers, that kind of thing. That was the whole marketing mix until we were doing $5.5, $6 million a year. COVID kind of blew that up with door to door. And that's when we pivoted away from it and started doing things differently. But in the very early days, I actually started very fast with just 2 employees. So by my second year in business, I just had Ben, and he was accountable for generating his own leads with door to door and selling the jobs. And then Paul, who was accountable for recruiting, hiring the subcontractors, and managing the projects. So I would meet with Ben first on Monday mornings. He would hand me all his book jobs because we had paper contracts back then. And then I would meet with Paul, and I would hand those contracts to Paul to produce the jobs. And that was my 2 hours a week of meetings. And then the rest of the week was like fielding a couple calls from those guys. And that was my business when we did, 400,000 in sales. And then the next year we had another sales rep. Ben was in college. He had another buddy who was like, "Hey, you're making great money. That seems like a good gig. Can I do it too?" And it literally started as like just giving a good job to college students. And now we run it like as a real professional, real business these days. But that's how it started.
Yeah, let's talk about door knocking. I love like the concept of door knocking, especially if like you're getting your first customer. So talk to me, what's like the three things someone needs to get right if you want to role play it as well. But like if someone's going up to a door, I mean, what do they need to say? How many times do they need to knock? I'm just kidding there. But when you are doing door-to-door sales to get the lead.
You could get really deep on this, right? Like you can get really, really good at door to door. But what we did and what worked for us and still works for like hundreds of clients that I coach is knock, knock, knock. You open the door and I hand you a flyer and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And I wait for you to respond and you grab the flyer. I say, "I'm Eric. I'm with Foothills Painting. I just noticed you had some peeling paint up here on the window. So I just want to put you down for a free estimate." And I look at my page at the same time, put my pen to the paper, and then I look back at you like, "Anytime now, what's your name?" And, the most common response I would get would be, "Okay." And I would say, "Great, what's your name and number?" And then we talk for a little bit and find out they actually are thinking about painting. They know that there's issues, and I call them later and set up the estimate. And so that's all we would do. It was like super, super simple. If you're doing a good job of that pitch, it's not about objection handling or anything, because those aren't the good leads anyway. And we would find that, every 40 doors you knock on, you get a lead, and somewhere between 35 and 70% turn into an estimate, depending on the effectiveness of the person knocking doors. So from there, it was literally just a numbers game until, one of our companies in 2020, we would generate about 40 estimates every week with 7 college kids just knocking on, a few thousand doors every week. And that's where it started to be burning through territory where we were just starting to invest in like getting way better at door to door. But that's when COVID happened and we pivoted away from door to door.
I've never done door to door, but I respect the heck out of anyone that can do it. I feel like it is like one of the best ways to get concrete sales skills there. So we covered the sales side there. Let's go into like the subcontractor work and how do you actually fulfill these jobs? What did that model look like then? And like what model would you advise people to actually fulfill these jobs from what you know now?
The first thing to understand is that in business, we'll use the painting business as the example, you're hiring people to paint the house. And so a lot of people have a misconception about subcontracting, thinking like I'm just selling the job to like the lowest bidder on Craigslist or something like that. And that's really not the case. There are a lot of really terrible employees out there, and there's some really great employees out there. There's a lot of really terrible subcontractors out there, and there's some amazing subcontractors out there. And the really beautiful thing about subcontracting, there's like several benefits, but one of them is these are people super committed to the trade. They literally own a business, they own equipment. Often they have employees, like they've been doing it a long time. They care about their work. I can hire one subcontractor and get 5 painters. I don't have to train them because fundamentally, like they have to deliver on the promises to my customers to get paid. And so I don't need to train because the quality is already baked into the incentives. It's also a seasonal business. A lot of trades are. So in December, we might have like 15 or 20 painters working on jobs, but in the summer, we've got 150. So it's really easy for us to scale up and then scale back. We don't have that obligation to provide consistent work. It's also just like a ton of work to staff. You have to buy equipment. You've got to provide vehicles. You've got to deal with a lot more liability issues. You've got to deal with a lot more training and staffing. And it's just so much more work to use employees. You also have a harder time guaranteeing your margins with employees because oftentimes it's hourly or things change. With subcontracting, it's like, I'm going to pay you $3,000 for this job. You buy the materials and my margins are fixed. And it creates this really beautiful partnership where we have subcontractors that have worked with us for a decade now. And we're like their primary go-to source for business. And a lot of these guys make really great money. They run a great business. They don't want to do marketing and sales. They don't want to scale a business like that. They want to manage their guys, run job sites, produce jobs, and they're really, really good at it. And there's a ton of them out there. So it's a really efficient way. And especially for people starting up, it's like such a great way to take pressure off of you as an early business owner. Because if you only sell one job in the first month, that's fine. Like you don't need to make sure you have work for people every single week, and you don't need to deal with turnover, and you don't need to deal with like scheduling as much. It's really, really effective. That's what I coach most people to do. It's a really useful model.
Most people spend months, sometimes years, just thinking about starting a business. But what if you could do it in just 10 days? That's exactly what the 10-day business launch plan is designed for. It's a step-by-step roadmap that takes you from idea to real operational business in just 10 days. Click the link in the description below and get ready with your business. Yeah, so with that then, I mean, some people might be thinking, Eric, I got a C+ in painting in art class when I was in 5th grade. Like, do I actually need to know how to paint, or can I like truly just subcontract this out and my role is only get leads then?
Yeah, so I'm an awful painter. I've painted 2 houses in my entire life from start to finish. And, I remember probably a decade ago, like we put a new shelf in our garage It was like 10 feet long, 3 feet wide. And I was like, I'll prime and paint it. It's tiny. And I think I made it 3 feet before I just like set the brush down and called one of my painters to come over and do it. Like I get paint all over myself. I make a mess. I'm slow. I suck. I am not good at painting. There are a lot of really amazing painters out there. And if you're going to build a big company, like you're never the one that's going to be doing the work. Like no big business has the founder doing like the entry level work. You always find great people to do that. And then that's the same case when you're hiring salespeople and project managers and office staff. Like you're always going to find and hire people who are better than you at that particular role. And then you're going to level yourself up. So I think it's no different. And I work with a lot of people who do the painting themselves currently. And then they're like trying to grow their business. And the very first thing we do is like get them to stop painting. When you're doing the painting yourself, you're paying yourself what you could pay someone else to do it. And you can pay someone else to do it, 25, $30 an hour. Your time is way more valuable doing the marketing, sales, project management, actually building the business. So it's really, really difficult to get past $60,000 to $80,000 a year in income if you're actually slinging the brush.
Yeah, listeners, take note of that. What I just love about the service business, and you talked about it really nicely there, Eric, is like we had someone that he runs a pooper scooper business. They do like literally like $1 million in revenue a year from just scooping dog poop. The magic in that is like he's never scooped dog poop. Like he just hires it all out. He just knows how to get the customers and knows how to get them in. And true to this model as you're talking about, I mean, it's similar to what you could do for this, just subcontract it all out then. So my next, of course, question of that is like, okay, Eric, I hear you. Yeah, subcontract it all out, but like where do I find these people at? Is it a Facebook group? Is it Craigslist? I mean, where are you getting like good subcontractors at then?
So for our company, we've literally never had to look past Craigslist. We post in the general labor section and the skilled trade section. And when we need to find subcontractors, we post twice a day in each section. So we're posting like 4 times a day. We're paying for it. And in 2 weeks, you will literally get like dozens or hundreds of responses. And then you're super selective, just like you should be for any other role. I also have clients who have success posting on Facebook Marketplace. I've had clients have a lot of success actually running Facebook ads. And then the other big one is literally like, you see an unmarked white van at the paint store and you just ask them, hey, are you a subcontractor? Would you be looking for work from anybody else? And so you can go and like sit there with a bucket of coffee all morning on any day of the week and just talk to the unmarked white vans. Those are your subcontractors.
Let's move to marketing, which is kind of a subcategory of sales and whatnot. You've helped hundreds of painters grow past $1 million in revenue. Like people would be like, yes, absolutely. Marketing channels. What are the best marketing channels to consistently get customers now? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it depends on the phases that you're at. So I talk about the business like there's phase 0, where all you're trying to do is get to consistency and stability, where you're making $100,000 a year, you're doing it in 35 to 40 hours a week, and you have some space to breathe. Then you get into phase 1, where you're building the foundation of the business and getting all your core functions really dialed in and playbooks written so that you have the foundation to move into phase 2, which is hiring your team, sales reps, project managers, office managers. And those are the 3 phases of business. And your marketing mix should change at each stage. In phase 0, when you're just starting out, you want to do the things that are pretty like guaranteed, pretty manual, and it's kind of like just hustle. Door-to-door marketing, putting lawn signs on corners on Friday afternoons near Costco's and Whole Foods and grocery stores and neighborhoods you want to target. They don't get taken down over the weekend because city workers aren't working on the weekend. So it's door-to-door, dropping lawn signs, dropping flyers, and then lead services can be used as well. Things like Angie and things like that. Don't love those, but they do work because you get to trade money for a lead. And then also Facebook ads, if you run them yourself. You should not hire agencies. You should not invest in long-term things like branding, vehicle wraps, SEO, website stuff, because that takes too long to turn over. So you want to put all of your effort and time and money into the things that get leads quickly. That's phase 0. Once you move into phase 1 and you have positive cash flow, you should start to transition away from the manual stuff and into paid stuff like SEO and Facebook ads. And then when you get into phase 2, my benchmark is you need about 30 estimates a week to do 3 million a year. You can get that on just a couple channels. That should literally be like your organic, your referral, your repeat, and maybe Facebook ads, or continuing to do lawn signs. You can generate $1 million in business from any of the things that I just mentioned. So it's not really about the channel. It's about how effectively you make the channel work.
That is really good. I love like the different phases right there and like breaking that out. I mean, realistically here, how soon or what's the average someone gets to like $1 million in revenue a year? Obviously, there's so many variables in it, but like the people that you have coached, I mean, paint us a picture of like what success could look like to get to $1 million a year.
Yeah, I have a number of people who have gotten to $1 million run rate in 6 to 9 months, where they're doing 100,000 a month, netting $25,000-$30,000 a month, and they're getting there in like 9 months. And then of course, all the way to people who like never make it because they don't apply and all that stuff. But if you really apply yourself, you can go fast. I have run into lately, because we've gotten really good at what we do. We have been running into lately people who are actually growing too fast, and they're generating, I've got a guy who got to 100,000 a month by his 5th month in business and he broke himself. And I'm like, dude, you actually need to scale back a little because you're too busy right now to actually build some of the things that we need you to help you build. And so ramp it back a little. We need to get a foundation in place because you're actually at a point you need to hire, but you're too busy to do the hiring. You're too busy to clean up some of these systems. So you actually got to pull it back a little bit. So there's just that balance where you actually can go too fast. But yeah, people can make moves really quickly. There was another guy that came from corporate America. He worked at Mars Candy Bar, that company for like 15 years. He started his company in January 2023, almost quit by March. I started working with him. And by March the following year, he was doing 150,000 a month with a team in place, making 40K a month in net profit. So that's like some of the really killer success stories. Got a bunch of those. And then, quite a few people have gotten up over 3 million a year and a couple over 10.
I mean, what makes like a successful story? Are they in the right market? Is it like they're truly just like applying it? Again, there's so many variables that go into it here, but like what makes a successful story? Is it just applying it, the market, good timing? I don't know. Like what makes a successful story?
For like the people I work with, it's mostly like how aggressively they implement the systems that we're providing them, how well they follow what we're telling them to do. So it's not really market. I had a guy, Kyle, who was in Wheeling, West Virginia, 27,000 population, who did 2 million in his second year. So it's not really market. The market is absolutely huge. I got another client in Grand Junction. His name's Daniel Thayer, and he went from 1.7 million to 4 million in 1 year, 75,000 population. So it's not really population because the market is absolutely huge and people underestimate how big the market actually is. It's not age. Sebastian, I mentioned earlier, he's in his 20s. I've got a 20-year-old kid who's run rate $1 million already, and he's a year in. And, Michael was in his, late 40s coming out of corporate America. So it's not really age. It's not really market. It's mostly how well you can just apply the stuff that already works and just like do the work that needs to be done, which, seems really simple, but it's not simple. Like a lot of people don't do that. Most people don't do that, which I think actually is why there's such a huge opportunity and advantage in not just painting, but in the home services in general is it's not a very high bar.
Yeah. That's what I love about services industries. Like really the barrier to entry is so low. I mean, you can subcontract this out. There's other industries where you need $500 to actually do the work. Like, and then a lot of it just comes down to hustle. For you, I mean, it's truly going back to like those different phases there. Is phase like 0 through 100K, is that truly like knit and grit hustle? Then everything after that is starting to apply. But like 0 to 100K, you said the lawn signs at Costco, which I absolutely love. But like what else happens within that very first phase? I want to talk to listeners that are like, okay, I'm really interested in doing this, but I am at phase 0 with $0 in revenue. Like, how do I get to 100K?
Yeah. So Sebastian, he started December 27th. He did 127K by April in 1 month.
That's crazy.
And then, Zach, who just moved into our other program, he started 8 weeks ago. His first 8 weeks, he did 86,000 in sales. So he was already at a $500,000 run rate, like from day one, basically. In that stage, there's just 4 things. Like you only need to get 4 things right. You need to generate leads and estimates with the things that I mentioned, like super basic marketing, just hustle, nothing crazy. You need to be able to have a basic sales process in place so that you can actually win the bids. You need to have a proper estimating system in place to price yourself properly so you're not undercharging, and your sales process makes sure that you're winning jobs at the right prices and you're not using your price to win jobs. And then the 4th thing is you got to learn how to recruit and manage 1 or 2 really good subcontractors. Once you get those 4 things down, it's like, I need to do 6 estimates a week. I need to close 3 of them for $15,000 a week. And I need 1 or 2 subcontractors who can handle that 15K. And I need a rhythm in place to manage that. And we don't need CRMs. We don't need website. We don't need SEO. We don't need to complicate it. And the people who move the fastest are the ones that don't complicate it. So like in our coaching program, we've actually stripped it down. We don't even give them anything that could be a shiny object. It's like, it's so bare bones that it's like, just do this stuff. It's heavy execution on very few things because that's all you need to get to $500,000 a year, And from there, it's like, okay, now you're making really good money. You're doing it on a good schedule. Now we can start to tighten things up with your business plan, your numbers, your CRM, improve all of those systems better, and stage yourself to start hiring your team.
What goes into a sales process is like how you price and like showing pricing to a customer. There's so much psychology that goes in pricing. Running my own company, I know pricing is like one of the hardest things to get right. You don't have to give us all the trade secrets here, but like how would you advise clients to like price this and like present pricing to someone that you're doing door to door? I want to stick with that 0 to 100K phase.
The way I look at it, man, is you should price exactly how you're going to need to price at 3 million a year, because a $3 million company is pricing that, and you have an edge on that company because you're the owner that they get to work with. Like you actually have a benefit that you can sell. So you should be pricing that well from day one so that you're making really good margins from day one. And how you present the price that's just the last thing you do in the process. It's everything you do before then. So presenting a price is as simple as, here's the contract, here's your information, here's my information, here's all the things we're painting, here's the prep work that we're doing, here's the materials we're using, here's some of the notes we talked about with your dog and with your plants and with your new garden over there and that other thing that we're going to do. Here's the 3 options you wanted me to price. These are the prices. Where do you want to go from here? It's all the things you do ahead of time to prep that price. And so we don't really go fine tune sales process at that stage because frankly, you don't need it. The market is terrible at sales. Like your competition doesn't sell at all. So we have like 5 core trainings that we go through in sales. It's like, do these 5 things and you'll outsell everybody that you're going up against. And so, there are things you do in that process. It's not like a trade secret. It's more just for our time today, but it's how we set up the estimate on the very initial phone call to set up an actual opportunity to buy. There's certain things that need to happen at the estimate to be able to make a sale. We need to give people some incentive to want to buy at the time of the sale. We need to do a thorough walkthrough of their house to create value. And one of the things I tell people to do is I say, just tell them how much it's going to be before you ever show them the price, because customers don't know what paint's going to cost or any trade. So they have some number in their mind. And so let's say the customer has a number in their mind and it's 5,000. If you come in at 6, it's sticker shock. If you come in at 4, they buy. But the reason they thought 5,000 is based on like nothing. And so if I just tell them early in the estimate, like, yeah, a house like this is usually about $6,000, they can reset their expectations before I show them the price. And so we just call it price anchoring. Like there's just ways to literally just tell people what it's going to cost before you actually show them the price so that it resets their expectation before contract's in front of them.
The price anchoring part I love. I'm reading Thinking Fast and Slow right now. It's
super good.
Literally today I was reading about anchoring. Literally like 3 or 4 hours ago I was reading about anchoring. So that's what came up in mind. You talk about incentives there. I use incentives all the time. Everyone's always looking for a deal. Everyone's always looking for like, what can you give me? What incentives does your team like use to like get them to actually buy? You guys doing anything to get them across the finish line?
Yeah, we do 2 things. And I believe that you should give people incentives to buy. So it's always ways to save money. And it should be something that if they do, it actually benefits you. So it's not just a sales gimmick, and it needs to be framed in that way, and it should be framed casually. So it's not 10%, it's a couple $100. So one incentive we give people is we just basically say, when are you looking to get your painting done? And they say in, 6 weeks from now. I say, okay, cool. I actually have a spot that I'd like to get filled about 4 weeks from now. If everything works out and you'd like to work with me, would you guys be able to paint in 4 weeks? In that time frame, and I can save you some money if you do. And they say, yes, I can. And there's a reason for them to buy now because they want to get that spot. And then the second thing we do is we just transparently tell them like, hey, when I come out and do the estimate, if you're really happy with me and my price and my company and you actually want to work with me, really helps me out if you just let me know that day. So if you do decide that day that you want to work with me, I'll knock a couple $100 off.
I'm applauding you for the scheduling thing. So listeners, also for this, like what I love to do with any like prospect that I have is like, what's a timeline that like you need this by for sure? And then everything goes up against that timeline. Like, hey, if you want to get this done by September 8th, we need to get this locked in tomorrow. So we have you scheduled in. I love that psychology because it really puts their needs at the forefront and like you're building everything to get that.
Dude, and Ryan, just to add to that, like the filming of this is like July. So we're nearing like the end of the season and there's a lot of people procrastinate. There's more procrastinators than non-procrastinators. So we get this big demand surge at the end of the season. And there's a lot of painting contractors that run an employee model. So they run out of spots and they say, we're all booked up. And so there's this increase in demand, but there's a decrease in supply coming into this part of the year. And a lot of painting contractors make a mistake of not like staffing up subcontractors to handle that demand. We say the exact same thing. Customers are like, we're like, well, when do you want to get this done? They're like, this fall. When do you need to know? And I say, haha, yesterday. But no, seriously, like yesterday. And like it's beautiful that we have that. So our sales goes bonkers right at the end of the season.
And like truly, like you are just doing like scheduling everything. But like also, I want to ask, obviously it goes bonkers right now, but looming in 5 months is Christmas time, November, like the cold. How do you like meet that seasonality? And I know you have subcontractors, so that can fluctuate. That helps your business. But like, I mean, what are you doing in like the slower times? I'm just curious.
Yeah, there's 2 things. So one is you can slash your prices to some degree and like you can run promotions and you can do everything you can to drum up as much business during that time as you can. Because the reality is, from an economics background, you've got simple supply and demand. And when there's the same supply or more and there's far less demand, it's going to drop prices. Like that's just the nature of it. And so you can lean into that. But what I really always prefer to do, and you kind of have to do, is like, don't look at your business week to week or month to month. Look at the goal for the year. So at the beginning of the year, I say, I want to do 6 million this year. And then we budget our marketing and sales and production plan to do 6 million, but it flows with the season. So we're not going to plan to sell anything in December. We're going to plan to sell a ton in the summer and the fall. and then we're just going to taper it off. So it's really nice for us because we have like this really chill off season. I used to take like month-long trips during that time, which is nice. Our staff likes it. They get a bunch of time off during the holidays and Christmas. So it's an employee perk. Like you can't argue with the market. Like there is less demand in the slow season and there's more demand later. So your job as a business owner is to plan for that, not fight it.
What I love about that from a business owner perspective is, you want to do $6 million a year, and I'm off all math, so whatever that is a month. It's not, every month is the same in revenue. It fluctuates. June, July is up, and then December, your revenue goal is probably like much smaller. As you said, I feel like that takes like a lot of pressure off of like the actual business to do stuff that.
Yeah, you might have $150,000 a month goal or a week goal. Yeah, I'm messing up.
Whatever it is.
Per week in July, and then it's like 30 in December.
For you guys, like, how do you guys budget like marketing? Just for example, is like 75% go to like payroll and operations? Does 15% go to marketing, 10% go to something else? Like, you guys have a system for that, just out of curiosity?
Yes, totally. So we like to build companies that make 20% net profit. That includes profit on the business and owner compensation. So however you allocate those things, it's 20% goes in the owner's pocket, which is way above industry average. For $1 million, $2 million, $3 million company, it's usually like 7 to 12%, which I think is horrible because I don't want to run a $3 million business for that number. But we aim for 20%. And the way we get to 20% is 50 goes to labor and material. That's subcontractor. Less than 10 goes to marketing. And then about 6 to 7 goes to sales, 6 to 7 goes to project management, and then 7 or 8 goes to overhead. And that leaves you about a 20% net profit. And so you've got to be really diligent with not bloating your overhead. A lot of people spend a ton of money on overhead that they don't need. And then your marketing costs need to be under 10% of revenue. So if I spend 10 grand on marketing, I need to generate at least $100,000 in sales on that.
What is like your overhead costs?
It depends on the stage of business. So for us, God, I have to just like actually pull up our P&L, but you've got your office managers are in there. You've got maybe some credit card processing fees might be in there. We have an office now. We didn't need an office for years. A lot of people get an office way too early. We've got a couple vehicles now in the company, accounting departments on there, things like that.
I want to ask too, because obviously you've done this from 0 to 3 million, 5 million, whatever it is. I mean, what's the biggest difference between honestly the effort of running like 0 to 100K compared to like 1 million to like 3 million? Like, what is there a difference in effort that you're like putting into it now? It's just fun to talk about like the different stages of business and like what that brings you as an owner.
Well, yeah. So just for perspective, so for National Painting Group, we did 23 million last year. We'll do 35 this year, maybe more. And I probably do 5 hours a week or less on that business. A lot of my intention is I just move to where things are needed. And so in terms of effort, it's for me right now, it's all discretionary. Like I can put in as much or as little as I want. I'm probably like hustling more right now because I'm super excited about everything we're building. Like I've never been more productive in my life than I am right now. And I've always built my business under constraints. So I don't work more than 30 hours a week. I'm with my kids every single morning until 9 a.m. I'm home every day by like 4 or 5. I don't work on weekends. Like I take time off. I spend Wednesday afternoons with my wife from noon on. So like I think that I don't think it's about hours. I think it's about what you get done in your hours. And I think that the whole point of building a business is to create freedom in your life. But the point of freedom is to live life the way that you want to live your life. And you don't need to get to a certain point to do that. You can operate on constraints from day one and say, like, this is when I'm home, this is when I don't work, and do that. And then work inside those hours and maximize productivity in those hours. We can always get more done if we work more hours. But that's only one of the levers you can pull. There's a lot of other ways to increase output and productivity and performance that doesn't require more hours. And so I prefer to pull on all those levers instead of just more hours. And when I run out of hours, I make some kind of trade, some kind of 80-20 to claw back some of my time and move into higher value tasks and management. So I think like it's all just different. In the early stages, it's pure hustle and grind to some degree. Like you're out there in the field. But where I'm at now, there's like, it's a lot more mentally tasking because I have so many people that I'm accountable for. Like there's a lot more that I've just got to be accountable for. But at the same time, like my phone doesn't ring. I don't manage email. Like I totally run my schedule and I'm just working on projects now that move the whole thing forward.
One aspect that I loved about that is like, I was talking to a friend, he's just getting started with a web design agency. And he's like, Ryan, like, man, like when you were just getting started with your company, were you working like 60, 70 hours weeks? And like, I was honestly like, not really. Like I didn't start my own company to like put myself inside like a jail cell where like I'm having to work on Sundays. I will never work on Sundays. And like, I don't know, that framework, I didn't start a company to create my own jail cell. The question I wanted to ask here is you talked about accountability. Obviously you guys are going to be doing $35 million in revenue. You are in charge of a lot of payroll at this point. I mean, does that pressure, that accountability like ever get to you to be able to supply for people's like livelihoods?
No, not really. I mean, I want to fight for my team. Like that's kind of what motivates me is what we're building for the future for our people. We really love the thing that we're building and who we're building it with and who we're building it for. So we really love what we're doing, but also like our business is not unpredictable, so it's not like there's week to week stress on like making payroll or paying people. Like we've got a really healthy company. Our people make great money. Our people have great lifestyle. Like we just have a good business. So I think we used to have a lot of fires and there used to be a lot of breakdowns because we were overcommitted, but we've been really diligent the last 5 years about getting ourselves not overcommitted so we can just build the business the right way. So we kind of stopped pursuing anything new to like clean up every mess. And now we're just in the spot where like it's just all upside. And we're getting to a point where there's not problems, there's just opportunities. And so that probably helps a lot. I've just learned that over time. It's like you have a bigger business, bigger problems. But man, I was way more stressed about like a $5,000 problem than I am about a $50,000 problem now.
Yeah, I feel like you just build that muscle of resilience. You go through it enough times. You've been through it once, you can get through it again there. So speaking of upside, this has been an amazing episode so far. So Eric, thank you so much. Let's jump to our Fan Blitz questions. And these are questions submitted from our community. Listeners, if you want to join in on world-class entrepreneurs doing 35 million in revenue a year, go to www.youtube.com/upflip and submit your questions there. But Eric, ready for our last 5 questions?
I'm ready.
Number 1, the biggest rookie mistake you see on a paint job.
Poor expectations. Poor expectations with the customer and poor expectations with the person doing the work.
Number 2, Facebook ads or door-to-door flyers. What one wins for local marketing?
If those are the 2 choices, Facebook ads, but if you knock the door, door to door.
What's the weirdest objection a customer has ever given you?
I can't think of like a really, really weird one, but usually if you get weird ones, it's because you're setting up bad estimates. So I can't really think of something really, really weird. There's not that many weird things that come up. It's usually like we're doing our tile. And that's like the weirdest it gets.
I like it. Number 4, you have 30 minutes to get 3 leads. What would you do?
Don't knock doors.
One business book every painting contractor should read.
I would go with either The 4-Hour Work Week, The One Thing by Gary Keller, or Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
I like it. Well, Eric, this has been so good. Thank you so much for your time today. If someone's like, oh my gosh, I need to learn more about Eric, need to see what he's doing, where can they connect with you and learn more about you?
You can look at me up at Eric Barstow on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. You can look up the Painting Business Pro or Painting Business Pro on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. We've got loads of stuff. And you can go to paintingbusinesspro.com to see our coaching program and all the things we do there. We got a ton of free resources.
Listeners, that was an amazing episode with Eric. 3 quick takeaways for you here. Number 1, you do not need to be a painter by any means to start a company like this. Eric laid out exactly how you can subcontract all of this work out to get to 3 million plus a year in revenue. Number 2, we didn't talk about that in depth, but reading between the lines, the lawn signs at Costco, the Whole Foods, place them on a Friday. I thought that was absolutely genius. So if you guys are just getting started with your phase 0, as we discussed, that's a great way to get going like this. And then third, another one here, any market can do this. He gave prime examples of people in population sizes of 27,000 that are doing $85,000 a month. So any market can do this. I absolutely love this business model and the breakdown that we've had here with Eric. If you guys want to stay in tune with other world-class entrepreneurs, make sure to make sure to subscribe. We have episodes coming out every single Monday. Eric, thank you so much for your time today.
Amazing. Thanks, Ryan.